building on that idea, there were so many things I thought I could say, and I tried to like prioritize into like my three main things. And I think it comes to organizational, cultural, when it comes to being able to create an environment where people are able to thrive, where people are able to be at their best, and therefore are able to perform. And the first one is about creating an environment where people feel safe. I know, and I have been in many environments where you just don't feel safe, where there's that lack of psychological safety. One of the organisations I worked in many years ago, very psychologically unsafe environment, and I remember that our CEO would say, I don't really care about sorting this out right now, I just need to know who's to blame. And when you're all kind of trying to avoid this blame, it's like, what, you know, who's coming for me? I'm going to be in trouble. You're under that pressure. You're feeling that, you know, that tiger, that saber-toothed tiger coming at you, and you'll do anything to be able to avoid that. You're less likely to be innovative. You're less likely to be collaborative. You're not at your best at all. So how can we create environments where people feel able to innovate, they feel able to grow and perform at their best? So just thinking about what is it, when we're in survival mode, how are we behaving? And William talked about this a lot already, but we are focusing on the threats. So we are scanning for threats. We are looking for people in our teams that are sending emails and we're getting affronted by them. We are saying, oh, you're trying to, you know, push this, or this isn't working. We're likely to be responding aggressively, we're likely to be blowing up about things when perhaps they needn't be. When we see a problem, we see this catastrophe rather than, okay, well, it's just, you know, a curveball that we need to shift with. You're always protecting yourself, you're avoiding mistakes, you're less likely to take risks, you're less likely to think things through, you're really reacting very fast. As you said, you're sort of jumping to get out of the way of that lion or that tiger, instead of thinking about, what is it I need to do here? What is the overall plan? What are we trying to achieve here? And then you're staying safe, so you're never pushing yourself out of your comfort zone. And this all makes complete sense when you're in survival mode. You just have to prioritise surviving, and everything else just becomes a deprioritisation. But when people are feeling safe, when we're in organisations where people are feeling safe, people are much more likely to be creative when it comes to problem solving. When you're psychologically safe, people are going to be able to say, I don't think this works, or we could try something else. What are some of the things that we could do differently? And I don't know if anyone's read Matthew Said's book, Rebel Ideas. I recommend it. I use it a lot when it comes to thinking about psychological safety and being able to embrace that diversity of thought. An example he uses of lack of psychological safety was in NASA. I don't know what NASA's like now, but NASA used to be a very unpsychologically safe company to work in, very hierarchical, and they were launching a rocket, and it was the first civilian being launched into space. I think she was a school teacher, and some of the more junior engineers had noticed that there were issues, and they kept trying to raise them, and the more senior people were being like, no, you know, how dare you, you're junior here, this isn't, you know, this isn't the way we do things. They started to realise that the more that they were kicking up a fuss, the more they were kind of there was black marks against them. It was making them suffer in terms of their roles. So they stopped saying anything. And then when the rocket actually went to take off, it exploded. And the things that the junior people had been raising were completely accurate, but because of the culture and the lack of safety, none of that stuff was listened to, which then had such a massive impact, because people weren't able to challenge the status quo. They weren't able to say, well, I know we might have always done it this way, but it doesn't work anymore. And when you think about things like tech and that innovation, you need to listen to the young, don't you, and say nobody uses Facebook anymore, this is the latest thing, and not always be going, well, we're stuck in our ways, we want to stay this way because this is the way we've always done it. This is the way everyone who is senior here enjoys working. We've gone through this before in the past, so therefore that's what we're going to do going forward. So being able to create that environment where people feel able to share ideas, they need to be able to feel authentic and say, you know, this is my background, and actually our differences bring a quality here. They help us be better, because I can talk to you about something in my experience, my socioeconomic background, my race, my gender, my neurodivergence. There are so many different ways in which people see the world, process ideas, and the more that we're able to make people feel safe to be able to share those ideas, the better. We've got to have a competitive advantage when people are able to share their ideas, challenge the status quo, and feel safe to be able to do that. So what can we do to create an environment where people feel able to be in performance and not survival? And I think a lot of the time, unfortunately, we create environments where people are always surviving. They're trying to recover at the weekends, get back in, okay, I just need to get through this, I just need to get through this. So what are some of the ways that perhaps companies inadvertently put everybody in their organisations into survival mode? Inconsistent communications. We as human beings feel safer when we have certainty, right? We can survive if we know what's happening next. When's our next meal coming? You know, do we have shelter? Do we have a tribe around us who support us? When your organisation is being really inconsistent, perhaps leaders are acting one way, speaking another way, there are expectations and then expectations shift when everything feels really ambiguous, then people are gonna feel that stress. They're gonna feel that lack of safety, and then they're not gonna feel they're gonna be able to be in performance. And then we also need to have talked about embracing diverse perspectives. We are better, and Apple's catchphrase is, we are all different, and that's our greatest strength. Because it's like, how do you tap into all of these different resources you have? Instead of creating a culture and environment that only celebrates, listens to, and rewards the loudest, often it is the people who are active thinkers, can think on the spot, speak up in meetings, are good at networking, are good at kind of being visible. But there are so many people, introverts, reflectors, people with neurodivergence that actually need more time to be able to reflect, who need more time to be able to perhaps feedback through email. So giving people different ways to be able to capture people's thoughts is so important, and that creates inclusion, it creates safety, but it also gives you that competitive advantage because you are leveraging the skills of people that aren't always normally heard in classic meeting culture, classic communication culture. And having that growth mindset culture. We all make mistakes, we're human beings, let's humanise workplace. We make mistakes, how do we learn from it? Instead of thinking about, well, how is that going to be a black mark against me? How am I going to be kind of punished for that going forward?